And so I find myself in Southampton, and why not? Because Jane and her mother and her sister Cassandra moved here in 1807, and they resided in a house in Castle Square, which we'll have a look at in a minute. Unfortunately, the original building doesn't exist anymore, and it's been replaced by a pub, which is also closed down, and it's going to be converted into flats. The exact address isn't specifically known in historical records, but the location is within this known area as Castle Square, and I believe that they rented the house from the Marquis of Lansdowne, who apparently had a mock castle, and I think you can just see the mock castle in the background. I think I might just go and have a quick look. This certainly looks like a real castle. Whether this was a mock castle or not, I'm not sure. But it is interesting to note that Jane rented the house from the Marquis of Lansdowne, who has, there is a picture on the side of the pub. We're going to have a look at that now. But there are also a couple of other locations down here, so it'd be interesting to kind of walk in Jane's footsteps, knowing that she would have walked along here, perhaps either down below or along this wall promenade, and then eventually down to the harbour. Now, one thing I am fascinated with is the fact that Southampton holds a place in the Jane Austen history, and to that purpose they obviously have a society here, and they have a number of plaques around the city, so we'll take a look at them. So coming along the wall we get to see what's now the juniper berry. Now, as I said, the house no longer stands here, but we do have a plaque. City of Southampton, Jane Austen author, Jane Austen's house. Jane's home from 1807 to 1809 was sited here in Castle Square. The house was rented from the Marquis of Lansdowne, who lived opposite in his mock Gothic castle. The Austen's garden stretched back to the town walls, and that's the town walls there. So this site was actually the house and the garden, affording extensive views of the New Forest, and at the time the River Test at high tide reached the base walls. Now, Jane refers to various aspects of Southampton in her letters, including social events, the town scenery, and her personal experiences. It's all a little bit modern now, however there's a couple of old buildings here. She also wrote about taking walks on the city walls and enjoying boat trips on the River Itchen. And she also mentioned the town shops, local acquaintances, and other entertainments available at the time. The old courthouse, One Castle Lane. I want to just see if there's a date anywhere, because if there's a date anywhere, then we will know that this building was here. I was looking for a date, but apparently in 1897 nothing happened here. Classic. Right, we'll take a quick walk along the castle wall down to the seafront, because there are two more plaques. Here comes the bride. Doesn't she look lovely? An Austen wedding. I actually wanted to photograph the Duke of Wellington pub, which is an old, I think it's Tudor. Let's go and have a look. Congratulations. I wonder if they're getting the ferry to to Isle of Wight. The Duke of Wellington, 12th century stone house on this site, foundations and cellars of which still remain, was from 1220, owned by Benedict Ace. Pause to read, blah, blah, blah. The reason I was intrigued is that we've got a castle entrance there, where of course Jane walked the castle surrounds and enjoyed walking, around the castle area. Busy Southampton. I'm wondering if she might have frequented the pub. It would have been an alehouse. And she was fond and partial of lively entertainment. It says so in her letters. And she would, I think there was one, I'll put it on the screen, where she kind of infers that she may have had one too many drinks while making merry. She was a girl, wasn't she, our Jane? I'm walking up here because it says there's an old Tudor house and it's a museum. Now, if this was from Elizabethan and Henry VIII's times, you know, the Tudors, then it would have existed when Jane was here. I don't know if I should go in, but would Jane have come in here? Tudor House and Gardens. Customer information. It is a museum. And I would suggest that, yes, you could go in if you were visiting Southampton, if you were following in Jane's footsteps, because the house goes around and connects to the edge of the wall, and you've got the castle wall there. And Castle Square is just up there, and behind me, St. Michael's Church, where I believe Jane also worshipped when she stayed here with her brother Frank. Lovely old church. So yeah, the church is just down the road from Castle Square, which is just up there by the Juniper Berry pub. So the house was built on the corner there, and she would probably walk through here, if not on the walls, but certainly through here. She would have worshipped there, she would have visited the Tudor Museum, she might have gone to the Duke of York pub. I am, of course, making it all up, but it would be interesting to surmise that, you know, Jane was here and she walked in this general direction. Let's go down and look at this other plaque. We've got the Isle of Wight ferry here. We can come and get a ferry across the water. But just here, on the edge of the remains of the castle, which looks a bit amazing, is another plaque. Jane's niece, 14-year-old Fanny Knight, records in her diary of Tuesday the 15th of September 1807 that Jane and the rest of the family embarked from here to visit friends in Hythe for afternoon tea. Fanny writes, "Mama, to everyone's astonishment, was of the party and not at all sick." Now that is a long boat ride from Southampton to Hythe. Let's leave Southampton and visit Worthing, because there are some Worthing connections with Jane Austen.